Welcome to a special edition of the Register's Report. We normally talk about the recordings for the month at the Registry of Deeds and a little of our county history, but we have a great story to tell about Plymouth County's agreement with Donegal County to be a sister county, and the agreement in our visit to Donegal. And we had some great experiences there. We were incredibly received. We learned a lot, and this is our chance to tell this story. Commissioner Hanley?
Thank you, John, and thank you for having me. A little over a year ago, you and I sat down and had just completed our last project, which was the creation of a county flag. And that was to memorialize our efforts with the CARES Act and the American Assistance Program, APA. And we were looking for something to do, and we discussed our common heritage of being both Irish, and we discussed the possibility at the time of talking about a sister county agreement with a county over in Ireland. So as you recall, our former colleague in the legislature, Claire Cronin, had been named the Irish ambassador. And I thought it would be appropriate for us to look for where her family came from, which coincidentally is where my family came from. Our family. Coincidentally. So a worldwide search over in Ireland landed us in County Donegal. The McLaughlin surname is a name that's very popular, and one of our guests today has the same surname as we found out when we visited Donegal County, which is where my grandparents on my mother's side came from. So from there, John, we invited our guests by invitation. Last November, if you'll recall, we hosted Mayor Liam Blaney and Gary Martin, the economic minister, and they came over to visit us down at your offices, the Registry of Deeds, and we signed a historic agreement which was a tribute to both counties and its inhabitants, and we circled in and discussed the area of economic opportunity, tourism, and culture. So from there, Liam Blaney, who was then the mayor of the county, extended a reciprocal invitation to us, and this past May, you and I traveled over there with Jack Lally, City Council President from Brockton, and the Dean of the Delegation, Clerk of Courts, Mr. Robert Creedon. So we started our journey there, and here we're welcoming the opportunity to share our findings with your audience.
You know, as part of our program last fall, we actually did the signing in Pilgrim Hall, and we were able to show some remnants from the ship, the Sparrowhawk, that is in the custody of Pilgrim Hall, which has a great connection with some of the earliest Irish to come to America.
On record.
Yeah.
But
we had a great visit in Donegal. We very much thank the Donegal government, Liam, and all your staff for welcoming us there. We did a little visit at the ambassador's house because Claire Cronin is our friend, and then we went up to Lifford. We viewed your council chambers, and then we went to Letterkenny, and then straight up to Greencastle and did that tour of the Kelp Farm.
So the historic agreement that we signed on that particular visit promises 4 visits, 2 by their delegation to our country and 2 by our delegation to their country. And we are hosting a county program for that, launching on October 16th of this year, where we will participate in the blue-green economy conversation with our host, Mr. Stephen Cole from Plymouth, and our guests will be coming over to discuss it. And with us today is Kevin McLaughlin, and he represents the Greencastle operation of kelp farming, and he's been invited to speak to the delegation at the conference.
So can we go to some of the pictures on the kelp visit first? So we took a long ride from Dublin to Lifford to Letterkenny, and then we went up into the Inchwin Peninsula, beautiful part of the world. And we very much thank you for showing us what we have been told here in Plymouth County is going to be a big activity going forward with the promotion of the growing of kelp. And I know your setup was very impressive. You want to comment on that?
Well, first of all, again, thank you to Liam Blaney, the mayor, but also to his deputy mayor, Mihal Naughton.
Yes.
In addition to the economic opportunities that kelp bring, the Donegal town is a historic town in nature. We had signed the historic agreement in the castle, and I think one of the next conferences we discuss will be tourism and the nexus between Plymouth Colony and Donegal town. So there's definitely some synergy there. The second day of our conference is going to include a cultural visit to the town of Scituate, Mass, which is the home to the Easter Rising Memorial, as well as is affectionately known as the Irish Riviera. And you know why they say that, John. You have the statistics.
Yes.
Why do they say it?
Plymouth County has the highest number of Irish descendants in the country, and Scituate has the highest number of Irish descendants of any town in America.
So day 2 of the conference will be a visit to the Irish Trail.
Yes.
That has been developed by some folks.
Irish Heritage Trail, right.
Irish Heritage Trail. And that evening, our host will have an old-fashioned kitchen party, an old-fashioned ceilidh where we'll have some music and some dancing and an exchange of more of our stories from abroad.
Right. So let's go to the pictures that people are looking at, you know.
So to your left, you see Kevin McLaughlin, who is our host. Kevin is the main force behind Greencastle kelp production. He started it out, I think, more or less in a way that was investigatory and has now blossomed into a full-time operation. I don't know when we should give them an opportunity to speak as we're showing these pictures,
Sure,
but
why don't you
on the
start?
screen, you see Kevin showing the pot where the kelp has actually been harvested and is now in the greenhouse to dry out. There's a separate facility that has a deeper dehumidification process for a higher purity, powder consistent product mix that has a pharmaceutical use. But I think it'd be appropriate for Kevin to kind of weigh in and talk as we begin the introduction of this show, just around the opening session here. Kevin, you can see the pictures, correct?
Yeah, no, first of all, Greg, thanks. And John, of course, thanks so much for having me on to talk about it. And can I also say it was an absolute pleasure to have these over in Greencastle. And to be fair, like for you to come all the way from the States to Dublin, then to travel to Lifford, Letterkenny, and then up to Greencastle on the same day, it's a tough old journey. So fair play to you for coming up, but we were delighted to have you. Yeah, as you've seen by the pictures there, that was our seaweed drying in our polytunnel, which is the first stage of our drying process after we harvest it from the line. So we originally we grow it on the farm, and we harvest it from the lines on the farm, and then we can take it up to our onshore facility to initially dry them in the polytunnel, which and then we can move it in, as you said, that we have a dehumidifying chamber for drying, and then from that we can then process it. You can keep it in the whole leaf form, the seaweed in their whole leaf form, or then you can mill it down to flake form or powdered form, depending on what the market needs. And then, as you said, then too, that the market itself can go to the pharmaceutical industry, beauty and wellness, cosmetics, fertilizers, animal feeds, and biofuels. So there's a multiple, I suppose, amount of industries that kind of spawn off the actual seaweed industry itself, or the farming side of it, you know.
So clearly it was a fascinating trip. Are there any pictures we can pull up about the boat? We went out into the waters with them. So Kevin, why don't you talk a little bit about the aspect of this production and how you actually get out into the waters to see the,
Sure. So I suppose the farm itself is the first part. I mean, we would have the seaweed cultivated in it's almost like seed form. So the seeds are then put in small little lines, which are then transferred over to our long lines, our large lines, which are then submerged approximately 6 foot under the water and left to grow. We do that. We put that in around say September, October, and then it's obviously the growing process during the growing process then over the winter, and we would obviously go out and check it and clean the lines and the likes, and then come early summer we're able to get our first harvest off it, and then you could and obviously it flourishes then in the summer. The seaweed grows really, quite fast in the summer, and we can get a second harvest off it then again in the, as you would say, the fall. So around the autumn time, early autumn. So we get two harvests out of it, and
So,
then you start the process again.
so Kevin, roughly per harvest, you recovered 15,000 ton per harvest. Is that a number that I remember from the trip?
Not 15 ton at the minute, but obviously
15.
we have it's 15 ton currently, but we've the ability to scale up. Obviously, at the minute, as you said yourself in your introduction, we found that would be an R&D phase. So we're able to scale up and obviously double that up to 30, and then you can we can scale up from there. But currently, we actually hope now in September to be able to treble up our farm already, and that's coming off the fact that our R&D phase was so successful, and we're growing seaweed, and obviously we've proven that we're able to grow it, but also proven that we're able to process it as well, and take it to market.
So up to now, Kevin, this has been a R&D project of your family's. This is a private venture. Can you speak a little bit about the interaction with County Donegal and the opportunity that it presents itself for the possibility for grant writing that would help expand your operation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for at the beginning, it's obviously something. I think you in Plymouth County have seen it too. That this is something that has great potential for in the future, and our family kind of seen that from the start. That's the reason why we kind of jumped feet first into it, and got it off the ground, and was R&D. But obviously, we've spoke to the Donegal County Council since then, and they've helped us out with growing the business, including setting up our website as well. So initially, our original plan was to sell, I suppose, bulk product in whole leaf form and powdered form. But in the initial stages, we found that was difficult to do, because obviously you had to expand the offshore plants with regarding the drying process and the powdering process and stuff. So in the meantime, we decided to create our own products. So we were working with we created seaweed baths and soaps and bath bombs for in beauty and wellness, but also we had food and snacks, like we were selling dulse and Irish carrageen moss. So there's a market for that, as well as a market for the bulk end of it as well. And yeah, it's something that when you consider Donegal and Plymouth are very closely connected, not just with regards our communities, but also our climates. I feel like it's something that Plymouth would be able to benefit from as well. And then you can go into the fact that it falls within line with the blue-green economy that you've already mentioned, which is obviously it's about creating an economy within a sustainable way of working along, I suppose, ecologically conscious. But the main thing, the one thing that people kind of forget whenever we're talking about going green or going blue or whatever it may be, that it's difficult. But this is the idea of it, is also creating an economy, creating jobs, and making money as well. So that's a major part of it, and obviously that's something that that the Donegal County Council are happy to help us with as well, and push us down that line.
And I think that's really the biggest impact of an economic development program, when government supports private investment to create industries. And I think, John, when you had done your due diligence in Duxbury, you had mentioned a company that is working to, in its infancy, to begin the same thing over here, and the conference will benefit us. I'd be interested in hearing from Liam from the government side, so we understand our role in how we can support the industry. Liam, in terms of County Donegal investing in Kevin's family's business, can you talk about some of the things that government is doing proactively to promote industries that are job creating and to present economic development opportunities for both sides of the pond for us to explore?
Oh, thanks for having us on the show, first of all, Greg and John. And it's great to see Kevin on here to hear a story. Donegal, as you say, Donegal County Council and the Economic Development section of it assisted and played our part in assisting new businesses, but in this case, particularly the Greencastle Kelp. And any way that the economic development sees that they can assist, they do assist, and they will give different programs to different people, whether it's for startup or whether it's to expand your business, and depending on what the client is requesting. And it's great to hear a story like Kevin's here, that Donegal County Council had been involved in it, and was delighted to be involved in the startup of it. And we do wish him well in his venture. And we know from listening to him here that he's very excited about it, and that they don't intend to just sit on their hands. They intend to expand and get bigger, and hopefully it will do very well. And that yourselves, from the trip that you had over here to Donegal, that you will have learned something from it, and that maybe we can have future meetings and future visits and help each other out and exploring different things that maybe we could expand on. And as Kevin has said, we're both come from similar types of counties, similar types of climate, both coastal counties, and I think we can learn a lot from each other.
Yeah, Plymouth County and Donegal both have large, beautiful coastlines, and clearly establishing economic development opportunities for us in the Atlantic Ocean and Buzzards Bay is something I know the Plymouth economic people are excited about. And I think that is a great way to look at this whole situation.
So Liam, you come from an agricultural background other than your political side, and you can speak to the opportunities and in the struggles of being in a industry that's dependent on Mother Nature. On this side, we have the opportunity possibly to present cranberry production and cranberry agriculture. This is the home to Ocean Spray cranberry juice, and it is a group of companies and growers that have put together this worldwide billion-dollar industry, and we see that on the green side of this blue-green economy as an opportunity. Can you speak to the challenges that you've had and the opportunities that may come from this conference in a synergy?
You talk about the cranberry, and it was something that was very, very interesting. We listened to your conversation about it, and I don't know if we could manage to grow them over here, whether you will give us the proper information so that we can produce some cranberry over here or not. But as far as both counties working together, Donegal would be a very agricultural county, and a lot of cattle and sheep breeding farmers in this county. And I suppose you talk about the cranberry and trying to get sale for it, and we'll be maybe looking for maybe trying to push Donegal beef and Donegal lamb on the people of Plymouth. It's with the topography of this county, a lot of it would be near organic anyhow, and that wouldn't be pushed. It wouldn't be very extensive farming, or it would be quite extensive farming. Wouldn't be very intensive, and as I say, a lot of it would be near organic. And I do believe there's a lot of ways that we both can benefit from a lot of things, and we do hope that we have, as I said already, we have plenty of more visits so that we can just see what more all we have in common.
We discussed wind power, and you are positioned globally in an area where the wind seems to be prevalent enough for you to make another emerging industry for investment in Ireland, and in particular County Donegal. Can you speak to how that process has unfolded for you? Because we are in the midst of it here on the Lower Cape, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket area, and just interested how far along you are in the process and what early results, if any, you've had to talk about.
Well, as you said, Greg, it is very early in the process, and Gary would be the proper man to talk to about this, our Director for Economic Development. But we've seen from what has happened this last year or something over 15 months that we can't depend on the Russians any longer for our fuel in this country, and it's about getting the right people, as Gary would say himself, about getting the right people in the room at the right time. And we do believe that Ireland could be the Saudi Arabia of renewable energy because of the one speeds that we have along our west coast of Ireland. It's some of the best one speeds in Europe, if not the world, and it could accommodate offshore renewable technologies and wind farms long distances away from our shores. We could be talking 40 or 50 miles offshore, but at the same time you have to take everybody else in the room with you, and the fishermen as people that's going to have to be talked to, and we're only at very, very early stages of it yet. So as far as having any results, there's very little as far as results based so far on it, but it would be the next step. It's going to be a long, drawn-out process, but I believe that the more of these contacts that we have, the more talking we do about it, I think we might be able to get there that much quicker. And both sides will try and learn from yourselves, and yourselves trying to learn from here too. I think that we could maybe help to push the thing on a bit quicker.
Now, Michael Michal Naughton also spoke of a major port. I believe it's called Kelly Biggs over there in Donegal. Yeah. What are the opportunities that present themselves from a major port?
That's one of the deepest ports in Europe, and as it's expanded massively in this last short number of years, the county itself could benefit from it as far as employment is concerned, because the employment numbers would be pretty high in Donegal compared to the rest of the country. And they do work on taking in ships, cruise ships, but other ships as well, whether it's for fishing, for shellfish, or for parts for wind farms. That is on some of our hulls around the county as well. And as a port that is expanding, and we believe it could be a major player in the development of wind farming off our west coast.
So I know the folks here in Plymouth County are excited about the opportunities that the October Blue-Green Economy Conference holds, and I know they'd love to have the story of Donegal Kelp on that program, and they've talked about that and committed to that. So I think that's a great start for this relationship from our visit.
Well, one of the areas also in the blue-green economy that is prevalent over here, and John McCluskey is a gentleman we can speak to as someone who led the way legislatively and regulatory, is in the area of shellfish development, oysters, and mussels. Kevin, can you speak to the particular growing area that is between the Republic of Ireland and
Northern Ireland.
in Northern Ireland. There's a growing area there that is kind of in a no man's land. We talk about regulation on this side, and I know there's a conversation being had between the governments to regularize that opportunity.
Well, the thing is, obviously, we're the part of Donegal that I live in, Greencastle in particular. The Foyle is the river that runs between both the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, and with that, there's, I suppose, an argument over who regulates that body of water in between Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland. So, with that, it's a case where I know I think you've seen it yourself, Greg, when you were over. You've seen all the oyster farmers up along the whole along the shoreline, where it's just oyster farmers for miles to see, and they're taking advantage of the fact that there's no necessarily regulation. They're there to farm the oysters. So with that in mind, it's almost a case where if the government in the Republic of Ireland are claiming the water, then the I guess the United Kingdom can't really come in and say, well, are you claiming the waters? And then vice versa, the Republic of Ireland can't necessarily go to the UK and say, well, are you claiming it? So there's a bit of a territory there. There's a sticking point, if you like. So with that in mind, we've obviously gone and been able to go and put our farm there too. With regards to that, we and we've the ability to expand. It's almost like a gentleman's agreement at the way it's run purely because of the politics between the north and the south. So it's a tricky conversation, one that maybe Liam could speak better about than I. But I know you were very fascinated with the whole situation when it came to it. So yeah, but I don't know if that answers your question.
John and I were visiting the ambassador's residence. We witnessed one of 11 documents where the Northern Ireland Peace Accords, and it was, for both of us, I think, kind of historic in the sense of seeing a piece of the original, much like we have here in Plymouth County with the original Governor Bradford documents that you maintain.
Mayflower Compact.
The Mayflower Compact goes all the way back to Governor Bradford. Yeah. So I would venture to guess, along the lines of economic development, along the lines of developing kelp, that there's a shellfishing opportunity where we can export our favorite son, and John McCluskey, who was deeply involved in the regulation of how the farming goes, from sizing to seeding to having a standard with which you could enforce. And if possible, I am almost positive, without going out on a limb, that I'm sure Claire Cronin would play a role in acting as an intermediary to develop an economic opportunity between the countries to help them to have a sustainable program for jobs on that end of Ireland.
So back on that in-between waterway, it was fascinating to me to see how close. There's a certain point in Northern Ireland that is like within a couple hundred yards of Greencastle and Donegal. And there's a ferry that runs
right,
there.
John. I think
right?
there's a lovely photograph, if I remember rightly, where you're standing in front of the Irish flag in Greencastle, and basically over your shoulder, you could nearly feel like you could swim across to Northern Ireland. And
sure
as you say, it's just a few miles across the way.
Also a picture of us in front of the President's home of Ireland in Phoenix Park.
Yeah.
So maybe all of this synergy could get together in a positive light to maybe help move forward in that part of the green blue economy.
Well, thanks, and we hope it works out for the October conference to have you make a presentation.
Yeah, I'd be delighted to make a presentation and speak with you and of course meet you again. It was an absolute pleasure to have you over the first time. So it'd be great to see you again, and I'd only be delighted to speak about it. And obviously, it's something that I feel that that people in Plymouth can also take advantage of, and something that a business that can be created in Plymouth. And and as I say, when people talk about the blue or green economy, I feel like people get scared off of the fact that it's supposed to be done within certain parameters, but it is at the end of the day about creating jobs, creating an economy, and doing that in a conscious manner. So, yeah, I think that it's something I'm excited to talk about, and it's something I hope that you will have me over, and we'll explore it further.
Well, thank you. So Liam, let's talk about the signing. It was a beautiful visit to the town of Donegal, and we very much enjoyed the town. But when we left our hotel and walked the 50 yards into Donegal Castle, it was like going back hundreds and hundreds of years in history. First of all, it's a beautiful place, and the experience of being in that castle for the signing was unimaginable. You want to add to that?
It was quite an honor for me to bring the greetings of my colleagues in Plymouth County and to address the historic nature of ratifying this. Mayor Blaney put together a delegation of his colleagues, and the signing was witnessed. I believe it was John McLaughlin that signed the agreement on behalf of the county as the county executive. And for me, it was on a personal nature, the fact that the mayor and everyone involved took it so personally to welcome us and to show us the town, that the friendship will last beyond this conference, that's for sure.
And you can see in the picture on the bottom right, we had someone come up and give us a history of the castle, which was incredible. Thank you for setting up that beautiful visit to the castle. It's a fascinating place.
Yeah, well, it's a very historical castle, and it was built around the 15th century, and by Red Hugh O'Donnell. And we were delighted to have you there. And I'm sorry I got cut off there for a few minutes. We were delighted to have you there, and as you said yourself, we do hope that there's many more visits, and we'll see a lot more of you in the near future.
Well, it was a beautiful place to do the co-signing of the agreement, and I love that photo we took at the end down in the courtyard of everyone together as we were making our way after the signing.
The thumbs up.
With the thumbs up. That was I've shown that picture about 100 times to people and said you could tell that we all had as well as doing our official duties, had a very nice time in Donegal.
Yeah, and it was great to have you over for the signing of that. And you know what? Likewise, when I was over there, myself and Gary Martin was over at the signing in Plymouth. The reception you had for us was way beyond what we ever thought it would be or could be. I'd like to thank you all very, very much for that too, both on my own behalf and on Gary's behalf. And it was the least we could do for you. And we did get on as if we had known each other for a long time. I think all participants on both sides felt that, and we do hope that friendship can continue, and that we will both benefit from these meetings and from the visits that we had to each other and that we will have in the future as well.
So I want to compliment your staff, because I was charged with putting some of these things together, and sometimes it's like herding cats when you have 4 people on our side that are trying to work their way around and coordinating it with the visits and the timing and our flight and our transportation back and forth. But they were wonderful in how they guided us through what is something we don't do all the time in terms of that type of connection. So I want to make sure I thank them for all the work they did in keeping us on track so that we could reach the accomplishments that we did by being there.
And I want to thank you personally, Liam, for your friendship, for your leadership. I know that you served your time as mayor Can you speak a little about where you are now in how government works on your end, and what your plans are for the future?
Well, as far as the mayor is concerned, and Donegal County Council, it is you're elected for 1 year by the rest of your councillors. There's 37 councillors in total at Donegal, and about 10, I think it was 9 years ago, I think it was 2014. Historically, here we've done an agreement among all groups, all parties, that everybody would get an equal share of whatever positions there was between chair and deputy chair and chair of different SPCs, and that they would be special policy committees. And it's worked very well. But last year, from the end of June 2022 until the end of June 2023, I was elected as mayor. And my term was up there at the end of June, passed over a month ago. And we have a new mayor and Councillor Martin Harley. So we have 1 year left in our term. It's a 5-year term, and we're back up for re-election again in early June 2024. And I suppose it works a wee bit differently here, local government, than it does over there. But that's our term, and we look forward to elections in a year's time, and
Great.
a lot of hard work between now and then.
Well, we look forward to having you come over. I want to thank you for your leadership with respect to your term in office. I hope this is one of the highlights of your year's term in office. We too, John and I, are on the ballot this year. We're on the presidential ballot, and we look forward to campaigning in the town of Scituate. So when you come to visit, we'll make sure you're aware of that central population, because within Plymouth County, the town of Scituate is the highest density. So the county of Plymouth is the highest density of Irish immigrants in the country. And within the county, the town of Scituate has the highest density. So we look forward to sharing that experience on the conference with you. And want to, again, thank you for your hospitality. I want to thank you for your leadership, and look forward to moving ahead in great friendship.
Yeah, one of the things Scituate has, and I believe it's the only town in America that does it, it's a monument to the 1916 Easter Rising. And it has the agreement itself on a marble tablet, and those that perished from that era on the backside of it. It's really quite moving. So we'll certainly show that as part of the visit to Scituate. And the Hibernians in that area were part of making that project complete. Fascinating thing. So can we look at some pictures one more time of the visit to the castle itself? We had a great visit after our trip on the water to a little tea and scones, and I want to thank the Greencastle Kelp people for that. That is a picture pretty close to where I talked about before, the connection to Northern Ireland. You can see on the lower part of that left-hand picture is Donegal, and on the top of that picture is Northern Ireland. And you can see how close that is. I'm not sure I could swim it, but I'm sure some people could. And that is a picture on the right, a different view of looking down the slope from Greencastle to Northern Ireland. And the picture in the middle is a picture of the ambassador's residence in Dublin that we were welcomed to, thankfully, by Claire Cronin, the ambassador, and her husband and our great friend, Ray Cronin. So it was a very short, very exciting and interesting visit that we had. And you can see that what we saw was incredible. And there's the outside picture.
Can I sorry, John, and that, it was great to have you there at the time. And it's amazing to me, even as someone actually who lived in the States for a while myself. And I love to hear that your fascination and you're proud of your heritage. And obviously, Greg, having even close connections to Inishowen and in particular as well. It's amazing, and that he's hold it so dear. You come from great stock, I would say, Greg, and being a McLaughlin. And but like I suppose a part of this whole thing too is, even for myself. I mean, I've travelled a bit, and I think from a Donegal point of view, Liam would even agree with me that these industries as well, it's great because it brings people back home. I mean, I'm not sure what it's like in Plymouth County, but certainly in Donegal, a lot of people, the younger generations would have left, and this type of economy is fantastic for bringing people back home and proving to people that that there is life back at home where you can set up a job and work from home and things like that. And I hope that's something that maybe in Plymouth that can be done too, you know. And as you say, you've got that heritage there in Plymouth, and you want to keep it. It's fantastic to see it. It's really inspirational, actually.
So Liam, any last thoughts?
We didn't delve in too much into the shellfish. Maybe we can do that for another day. But you know, between the oysters and the mussels and the scallops, and I don't know if you know much about scallops or not. I know you know plenty about the oysters and mussels, and the scallops, another lovely shellfish, and they're something that there's a lot of scallop farming going on as well, especially in a bay here beside me in Mulroy Bay, both mussels and scallops and oysters. And we export most of them to mainland Europe, but we use a lot of them here ourselves as well in Ireland, and they go on for processing. And tourism in this county is massive, and the beauty of this county that's untapped. That a lot of people don't know a lot about it. The excellent golf courses we have. We have a lot of American tourists starting to come here to this county. They realise the excellent golf courses that is here. And within a very short distance up here near my own area, we have Rosapenna Golf Resort, where there's 3 lovely golf courses. And to the west of it and to the east of it, we've another 2 great golf courses in Dunfanaghy and Portdown. That's just named but a few of the great golf courses we have. So, look, I think there's potential for a lot of things here, and hopefully over the next period of time that we will be able to share it with yourselves and the people of your county, and that we will interact more, hopefully through time, through tourism as well. But I'd like to thank both of you as well, just for your hospitality and friendship. I suppose, Greg, I got to know you better, and I got to know one of the rest of them. But I'd just like to thank you for that. And it's great to get to know you, and hopefully that friendship will continue.
So I want to thank both of you for joining us. I also want to mention thanks to the people here at PAC TV. This is not an easy thing to put together, and it's incredible they were able to do this. I know our time difference is 5 hours different, and what is morning to us is afternoon to you. But I think the efforts they did in getting the photos together, the Zoom connections together, and just giving us the time to tell the story of our visit and our mutual hospitality is something we'll always remember.
Yeah. Well, enjoy the summer, lads, and we look forward to hosting you in October and welcome you with open arms. We'll continue the chapter of the book we're trying to write over here in Plymouth County in concert with our pals from County Donegal. Good luck.
Thank you.
Greg, John, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Great. So I want to thank PAC TV for putting this show together. This is a different version of the Register's Report. I want to thank both of our guests from Donegal for the tremendous job they did when we were visiting, as well as on this show. I want to thank Commissioner Hanley, who actually was the one that came up with this idea to do a sister county agreement. And I know it's going to be a great fruit as we go forward in the future. So have a great summer, everyone, and we'll see you next month.